Hi, my name is John Ruffin, and welcome to my Ansible 101 Down and Dirty. Let's get started. You might be asking, what is Ansible? And you can see from this picture here that Ansible is what is called an automation language. It's an automation language that's depicted by these four scenarios here. This language can be fed through Ansible's automation engine, and then this engine, according to what we put in this automation language, will automate pieces of your hosts or or your networking. So let's say if you are a system administrator and you want to see if 100 of your servers are up and running, you may want to ping 100 servers. You don't want to ping 100 servers one server at a time. You may want to use some automation to ping all of them and get some responses back. So that's one small, very, very small scenario about how you can use Ansible's automation language and automation engine. This is the fun part here, Ansible Playbooks, but we're going to take it slow because we want you to understand the basics of how to get started. And we're going to do that through the Ansible docs, right? We're going to go through the Ansible docs and understand 101 from the Ansible docs perspective. Now you'll see right here on docs.ansible.com, in the introduction it says, before we dive into the really fun parts, playbooks, configuration management, deployment, and orchestration, we'll learn how to get Ansible installed and cover some basic concepts. Now don't do like I did. I got Ansible installed and I went straight to the playbooks. Having gone back and gone through the basic concepts, I now know that I can do anything a playbook can throw at me, or I can throw at it in or any of the modules. So I understand this fairly well. Let's get started on and see how we can install Ansible. And I say install, I'll put that in quotes because it's not necessarily an install. On this page, don't get too confused about all these links. Let's see what it is saying. So down here, you're saying you can install Ansible from one of the latest releases according to your operating system. Another way to get Ansible would be from GitHub. Ansible is an open source project, and that is the route we're going to take today. We're going to grab it from GitHub and configure it, install it, and get running. All right, let's scroll down. Ansible getting started. It says that you can grab it from GitHub. That's basically what they're saying. Basics of what will be installed. The basics of Ansible is that you have to understand it's going to run, it can run over SSH protocol, right? So from your machine to the managed node, so to speak, will be over SSH. Once Ansible is installed, it will not need a database. It doesn't need anything on those remote servers. Let's go back over here. These guys over here don't need to have anything installed for Ansible to communicate with it except SSH or whatever protocol you want to use. But there are no agents left here in order for Ansible to connect to it. Agentless is what that means. So here it says which version to pick. We're not going to pick a version. We're going to grab it from the open source. Here's a concept you need to understand. A control machine. Control machine is actually where you're going to download or install Ansible itself. It only needs to be installed on one machine. You only need one control machine, so to speak. So what's needed on a control machine, it says, is Python. So Windows is not supported as a control machine. It is supported as one of these hosts. So if you want to do some management using Ansible on one of the hosts, that's certainly doable. Not a problem if the host, the managed node, is a Windows machine. Let's keep going. You can read notes at your leisure. So we just talked about a managed node. On the managed nodes, what do you need? Well, basically this is saying that you need SSH and you need Python. That's all that is saying. On the managed nodes, you need a way to communicate, which is normally SSH, all right, and it happens via SFTP, where you can switch to secure copy, right? That's all this is saying, is that you need Python on the managed node. Again, you can go through and read the notes at your leisure. We're going to keep going. So now we're at installing the control machine. Yes. So running from the source, which is what we're going to do. It says Ansible is trivially easy to run from checkout. You don't need real permissions. Again, there's nothing to install, no database, blah, blah, blah. All right, let's keep going. Now, it says right here to install from the source. Of course, you're going to need git install. Hope you have that installed already. We're going to clone it from this repo, that's recursive, and then you cd into Ansible. So I've already downloaded Ansible from Git, but let's go ahead and cd into our repository where we downloaded it from. Let's go ahead and open up a new terminal. And I put it into my third-party tool / Ansible directory. So you can see here on my screen in my terminal, this is what I downloaded from this repo. Now I've just changed the directory into there. It also says if you're using Bash, you want to go ahead and source the hacking / environment setup. This just sets up things because you are running from the source. So you need to go ahead and source that if you're running from the source. Let's just keep going. Here's an option. You can suppress some warnings. I don't typically do that. I want to see all the warnings. Let me see everything. And then you want to go ahead and do this Pip Install. So this is for Python. You're also going to want to run this command too, Pip Install, right? Because on your machine, on your control node, you're going to need these libraries, maybe. And then here, it says when you're updating, don't forget to do a pull on rebase, and then don't forget to update the sub-modules as well. All right, it's just kind of housekeeping. All right, so now we are kind of at the meat of where we want to be to get started. This is, once running the environment setup script, you'll be running from checkout, and the default inventory file will be etc Ansible host. Well, not necessarily. You only get etc Ansible host if you're running from one of the releases. Right? We're running from the source, so it didn't create anything for us. We don't actually have an etc Ansible host at this point in time. It also says that you can optionally specify an inventory file, and this is what we're going to do. So I have specified a host file in a directory called hosts. And in here, I have what is called the Ansible_host file. And we're going to spend a lot of time in this file. We're going to use git to go back to different versions of this file. So you can see, we'll go through. You're going to see how over time we're going to change this file to mirror what we're trying to understand here in the docs. So this is saying that we want to just spit out localhost to this Ansible host file. In this next line, it says that we want to export Ansible_inventory to whatever this host file is. So we've done this as well. So it basically, instead of using the default Ansible Ansible host location, we're just going to specify a different place for our host file, and that's quite okay. You can read the note. Ansible underscore inventory is available starting 1.9, right? Ansible host is deprecated. All right, so I think we are ready, or this is what it's saying that we are ready. Let's see if we are actually ready to execute an Ansible command. I'm going to go over here in my new terminal window. I'm going to clear that, and I'm just going to type Ansible. If we get something back, enter. Uh-oh, we didn't get anything back. This says that the program Ansible is currently not running. You can install it by typing sudo apt install Ansible. Well, we don't want to do that because we already downloaded from the source. So what could be the problem? There's a step over here that we didn't do. I will show it to you. It's this step right here. We need to go ahead and source this file. So we'll run source./hacking environment setup, enter. All right. Go ahead and clear the screen. All right. Now let's run and see if we can run it. Let's go back over here to see exactly where we were. All right, we're trying to just see if we can run Ansible and get some Ansible related command information back. We just source it. Now look, we have another error, but we are seeing Ansible specific information. So we're now getting to Ansible. But what is this error all about? It says that we are missing target. Okay. In order for Ansible to understand which targets we're trying to hit, we have to tell it which Ansible host file we wanted to view. Now it could be multiple host files, but we're going to just stick with one. We need to export this guy. I'm going to clear the screen again. Clear. And then I'm going to export caps Ansible underscore inventory equal. We put ours in /host /Ansible host. So let's export that. Now I think we can run Ansible again. All right, so we're not even telling it which to run. So if you look right here, this line, well, if you're new, you might not even understand what this line is doing. So let's take a step back and understand what this is saying. So first, this line is saying, call Ansible, and we're going to run something, well, on which host. Ansible needs to execute. If you look at this document over here, needs to execute against some host, right? So this is saying execute Ansible against all hosts. This -m means which module do you want to use? Well, we want to use the ping module. And right here it says ask for the password. Ask for the password. Let's clear the screen again. And then we will run Ansible, ANSIBLE, all -m ping. See what we get. Now we get a different error, which is cool. All right, so we're getting closer. We're getting closer. We're getting closer. What is this error saying? It says that this IP address, right, which is in our Ansible host file. Let's take a look at that guy, because I don't think I've shown you that yet. Over here in Git, we're going to have multiple versions of this file. So if you do a git tag -n2, we'll look at the tags I've set up for this file. I have 4 different versions of file, and we're going to go and check out the simple version, the simple form of the Ansible_host file. Git checkout version 0.1. All right, so now let's cat Ansible host. Let's look at the file itself. So in the file, all it has is this IP address. This is the host that we're telling Ansible to run these commands against. So if you look over here, 52.91.61.225 would be this host over here, which we're trying to execute against. So we're trying to execute against that, which is one of my Amazon EC2 instances in the cloud. I'm trying to ping that IP address, and it says that it is unreachable because of what? Permission is denied. So I'm trying to SSH into this guy, but I'm not giving it any credentials. So the first thing we might want to do is give it a user. So let's say Ansible all -m. I should have just did it there, all right. Ping -u. I know I have an EC2 user on that machine. Let's see if we get anything different now. Well, it looks like we got pretty much the same error. Okay, so what else could be wrong? So we know that we can execute Ansible. All right, we're getting that far. It's not complaining about that or the ping. It is complaining about permission. What could be the other thing? Well, in SSH, what do you need? Well, on the remote or managed node, you will have the public key. The public key needs a handshake from the private key. Well, we have not given this scenario the private key yet. So let's see if we can add another private. I can't remember the exact verbiage, so let's do Ansible, A-N-S-I-B. To see what that is. This is the attribute we're looking for. Private dash private dash key. Run our same command dash private key equals, and I know my private keys are in this keys folder, and it's called private key dot pin. That's the name of my private key that's going to associate with the public key on that 52.91.62.225 server. Now, I think if we run this now, I think we'll be home free. Enter. Now we have successfully pinged this IP address, 52.91.61.225. So we have given it the right user, and we have given it the correct private key that is associated with the public key on that remote host. Now I'm going to show you a way where you don't have to keep typing in the private key and the username, but we're just getting started right now. We're just kind of going through how you might go through getting started with Ansible. So we had some success, right? We've just executed a module against a remote host. So we know that our configuration and authentication is working. Let's keep going over here. Now we're getting down here to all the latest release information, right? We're not doing this because we already have it from GitHub. We don't need any releases right now. You can do that if you like. Pretty much the same scenario. Now, when you get down here to the bottom, you're going to be tempted to click on some of these links. Don't do it yet. If you're just getting started, don't do it yet. Go ahead and go next and just focus on the basics for now, because you'll be going down rabbit holes and click next. All right, so we're on the next part of the getting started. So this says, now that you read installation and install Ansible, it's time to dig in and get started with some commands. Yep, it is time to do that. Just scroll down a little bit. Talks about remote connection information. Well, we already know that we can connect. We've done that already. Let's keep going. Now here's an important part right here, because it says in the middle, basically this is saying that you should run your commands close to where your servers are. You should run your commands close to where your servers are. Now I'm running this on a laptop that has Ubuntu on it, and I'm trying to reach out to AWS EC2 instances. This is saying that basically it's common sense that you should install the control. You should install the control close to where your servers are. We're not doing that, but it's quite all right to run it from our laptop right now, because we're just going through it again, the basics. As an advanced topic, Ansible doesn't just have to connect over HTTP or over SSH. We're not going to do that right now. That's fine. We're still in the documentation, docs.ansible.com. Now we're going to go over your first commands. Now that you've installed Ansible, it's time to get started with the basics. Again, this is saying we're going to edit or create the etc Ansible host file. Now we know that our Ansible host file is not in etc Ansible host. It is in a directory that we created, and then we told Ansible to look where to look for the Ansible _ host file. So now it's saying that this is an inventory file, which we'll explain in greater depth later on. But we already had a look at our inventory file. We did a cat on our Ansible host file, and this is the host that we are trying to connect to. Now, one more thing. Let's keep going. This thing says that we are assuming that you're using SSH keys for authentication. Okay, so in order to bypass having to put in that private key file every time, then you'll run these two commands right here, and we're going to do that over here. So let's go over here and ssh-agent bash enter, and then we're going to say ssh-add the path to our private keys. Now it says it's added. Now we no longer have to put this attribute in our commands, right? We just added it, so it knows which private key to associate with our commands. All right, we keep going. Now it says that you can run Ansible all-m ping, but not necessarily for us. We still need to give it the user name, because it doesn't know the username yet. If we go over here and go back up, did we pass it? Export. All right, guess we'll have to type it again. Ansible all dash m ping dash u is ec2 dash user. All right, we just executed it without giving it the private key, so everything is still cool. Down here it says Ansible will attempt to remote control to your machines using the current username, just like SSH would. To override the remote, you use the -u. Okay, we've already done that, right? Because on this machine, I'm logged in as user student 1. On my remote machine, there is no user student 1, so we have to give it the specific user. So we're giving it -u ec2 user. Keep going. We're getting close. It says if you would like to access sudo, then you can do that. Let's look at it. So you can run Ansible all-m ping and give it the user. Okay, this we've already done. These other two we're not going to look at because they are deprecated. This would be older for older versions. We're going to go down here with the latest version. So this command is Ansible, right? This is going to call Ansible. What's it going to execute against? Well, it's going to execute against all of the managed nodes or hosts in our Ansible _host file. We're going to say this is the module we want to execute. Which module? It's the ping module. Or which user? Well, they're using some guy named Bruce. And then this -b means become root. -b is become root, right? I want to become root. So go over here to our scenario, ec2 user, and put -b. Then we can run this. We can become root. Notice we didn't get an error, so that we just became root. I also know, let's look back over here, we're doing the same thing. Call Ansible against which hosts? All of them. Well, there's a module that we have to run. Which one? Well, the ping module. Well, what is the user? Some user named Bruce. He wants to become root. And now from root, we're going to go from Bruce to root to Batman. So I have a user on my machine called get become -user. Get, run that. Now we've just done the same thing. We went from ec2 user, then we became root, and then from root we went to user get. All right, makes sense? Let's keep going. This talks about sudo implementation, blah, blah. We can keep going. Now run a live command on all of your nodes. This is a little bit different syntax, right? We don't have the -m here. So by default, if the -m is not there, it basically is saying Ansible run against all of my hosts. And what do you want to run? Well, I want to run a command. I'm not necessarily running a module here. I'm running a command. Well, which command are you running? Well, I want to run the echo command. So echo out hello. Now let's see if we can run that. So we'll just go an arrow up. So we don't need to become get, we don't need to become root. And we're not going to ping. So we're going to do -a, and here's the command. /bin/echo. We're going to say, Welcome to DevOps. Internet dash U. That should work. I think that'll get us there. Right? And there it is. We just echoed out welcome to DevOps. From all of our hosts. All right, let's keep going. Let's keep going. We're almost there. The next little piece here, it just says congratulations. You have contacted your nodes with Ansible. All right, we're doing good here. And then it says we're gonna go to introduction to ad hoc. All right, and then you're gonna go to playbooks. Let's just keep going. Host, key check-in. We're gonna bypass that for now. And we're gonna bypass the links again, right, until we understand everything. So let's go next again. Let's go next. All right, we are still in the docs. So over here we talked about installation. We talked about a little bit about getting started. Now we know that we can SSH into the box. Now let's talk about this inventory file. The inventory file, which is the Ansible_host file. So this is what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about hosts and groups. We're going to talk about host variables. Let's talk about group variables. All right, let's just get started. This says that Ansible works against multiple systems in your infrastructure when at the same time. Yeah. Let's say if you want to do something with 100 or so remotes, managed nodes, you don't necessarily want to wait one by one in sequence. Ansible can run all of these at the same time. That's what they're saying. It does this by selecting portions of your systems listed in Ansible's inventory file, right? The Ansible_host file. Again, it's saying that the default location is here, Ansible etc Ansible hosts, but we already know that ours is in our own little host file. This is also saying you can use the -I to give it which path on the command line. It also says that you can use multiple inventory files at the same time. Let's just keep it simple. Let's keep it simple. Now we are over here at hosts and groups. This says that the format for the etc Ansible host is an INI-like file or format, and it looks something like this. So we already looked at ours. Let's go over and let's just vim Ansible hosts. So now we're in vim, and all we have right here is an IP address. All right, so we could have a domain like this, right, instead of IP address. And this little piece right here is what's called a group. And we're going to talk about groups in just a second, but this is how you would declare a group. And then these two domains, hosts, will be members of this group. So you can execute commands on this group, and it will execute the commands not on all of the hosts, but only the hosts associated with this group. I believe I have a version of yes, we have a version of our Ansible_hosts which adds a group. So let's check out version 0.2. Yep, that's what it is. All right, and let's click, and then we'll do a cat on that. So now we have in ours we have a group, and this is the name of the group, Dev Web Service EC2. That's the name of the group. It's the same IP address, but this is just the name of the group. So now instead of using let's just tab up a little bit. Are we in a different, wow, okay, over here. So now instead of saying all, we can use the group name. So let's go through, let's go back and we will remove all. Uh-oh. Enter a group name. Now execute. And we still have success. So we just echoed using the group name instead of all. So again, if we look back at our Ansible underscore host file, we added a group. We could have put multiple IP addresses in there or domain names under the group. And we changed all in our command. We changed all to the group name. We want to execute Ansible against the members of this group name, and then that's what we did. So that's how it works. Let's go back over here. This says that the things in brackets are group names, which are used in classifying systems and deciding what systems you are controlling at what times and for what purpose. It is okay to put systems in more than one group. So I believe they do have systems in more than one group up here. Nope, they're all the same. But you can put hosts in more than one group. Here's something to remember though, we'll talk about this a little bit later. If you do, note that variables will come from all of the groups they are a member of, and variable precedence is detailed later in this chapter. Okay, we'll just talk about that. That's cool. Notice you can put the same hosts in multiple groups. And this is saying, this next piece is saying, if you have a server that's running on a non-SSH standard port, then you can actually give it the port that you wanted to execute on in your host file name, in your host file. It's not necessarily recommended, but you can do it. Here's something that's cool. Is suppose you just have static IPs, and you want to set up some alias for in your host file. So we can do that because we've already done it. All right, so let's go back over here to Git. Look at our tags again. Figure out which one we want to flow to. So let's do a git checkout of version 0.3. Alright, so now we can do a cat on Ansible host. So now we're looking at, we still have the group name right here. Now we have a little bit more than just the IP address. So we have an alias here. CI/CD, right, continuous integration, continuous deployment, where at Ansible host, and we're still in the same host name. So now, since we have this group name, we can use the group name in our commands, and we also have an alias to the IP address or to the host. We can use the alias as well, and the alias is CI/CD. Let's see that in action. We will clear the screen, go back up a few. Now we don't want to use the group name, we want to use the alias, CI/CD, execute. We should be good. All right, we're good. So now it's using alias. I hope you can see how using Git and tags and version controlling your infrastructure is a really good idea. I hope you can see that. All right, so there's an alias, and this is just saying you can run this on a non-standard port. And we'll keep going. And this is saying, hey, what if you have lots of hosts? then there are different ways you can create your hosts and patterns for lots of hosts. So again, this would be a group name, and then this would be a way of saying, hey, give me www 01 through 50 .example.com. Another thing you can do is you can do a range of alphabetic characters. You might have db-a, db-b, for different databases. And then so for your database group, you just run this and it'll hit all of your database hosts. Keep going, you can read the note at your leisure. You can also select the connection type and user on a per host basis. This is pretty cool. Let's look at this. So we have a targets group name, and this is localhost. So we're creating an alias called localhost. And what kind of connection do we want to localhost? Well, we want a local connection to localhost, because it would actually be the control server, right? This will be where Ansible is installed. So you would be doing tasks on the same server where Ansible is. That's why it says local here. So you might have another host, other1.example.com. What kind of connection would you like to that? Well, it's not local, so SSH would be fine. Here's another variable that you probably haven't seen yet. It's called Ansible user. And this Ansible underscore user can take the place of this -u that we've been typing in every time. So in our host file, we can have an Ansible underscore user attribute, key value, and we don't have to type this -u user in all the time. And I believe we have a version of that from our Git repo. Yes, version 4. So let's check that out. We will Git check out version 0.4. All right, let's clear. Clear screen and do a cat on our Ansible underscore host file. And now you see that we still have the group. We have the alias. We're telling it which host. And now we're telling it which user. So now we go back over here. We can arrow up a couple. And I'm going to take this user off. And hit enter. Now that should work because we're giving it the user in the Ansible underscore host file. So that is what this is detailing. As mentioned above, setting these in the inventory file is only a shorthand, as we'll discuss how to store them in individual files in the host vars directory a bit later. Yeah, that is the best practice, to actually put those in the host vars directory, but it's okay, right? We're learning. So host variables. Let's keep going because you're almost done. You're almost there. You're almost ready to really dive into some of the deeper parts of Ansible. Host variables. As alluded to above, it is easy to assign variables to hosts. All right, we just did that a little bit. That will be used later in Playbooks. So now we have a group name called Atlanta. And then we're set it to, let's keep going. Those are host variables. Nothing wrong with host variables. That's host 1, and you're telling it which port, and you're telling it max request per child. That, right? So that's fine. These are host variables. Then you have something called group variables, and these variables can be applied to the entire group at once. So let's say we have a group called Atlanta, and then we have host 1, host 2. Maybe we want to apply some variables to everything in Atlanta. Down here we have the Atlanta group name : vars, right? So now we're saying, hey, create these variables for this group. And these are the two variables that are going to be associated with the members of this group. It's pretty sweet. Let's keep going. Let's keep going. Groups of groups and group variables. It is also possible to make groups of groups using the children suffix. And we'll talk about what that means in just a second. So here we have an Atlanta group, and then we have host 1, host 2. We have a Raleigh group, host 2 and host 3. Notice these two share host 2. That's not a problem. Now we have another group called Southeast, and we're saying that it has children. So this is going to be a group of groups because it has children. Southeast is going to contain Atlanta group and Raleigh group. Make sense? We have a group of groups. And then this group of groups can have its own set of variables. So the Southeast variables are these, right? These 4 variables that we're setting up. These 4 variables will be applied to the subgroups Raleigh and Atlanta of the group Southeast. So we have a group of groups. Now we have another group of groups. The group is USA. And what groups make up USA? Well, Southeast, Northeast, Southwest, and Northwest. These 4 groups make up USA. I hope that's clear. So splitting out hosts and group specific data, I believe we'll skip that. I believe that's okay. You can come back and add your leader. List of behavioral inventory. Yep, this is a good place to start too. You need to know this. Well, actually, you have seen, believe it or not, most of these attributes already. Remember earlier when I hit Ansible and we got a whole list of error messages? Not necessarily error messages, but I tried to do some on Ansible and I didn't give it a host, and then it said, hey, here are the attributes you can use for Ansible. So we already saw that over in our terminal. So what can you use? You can specify Ansible host, you can specify port, you can specify Ansible user. We just did that, right? So we wouldn't have to keep using our EC2 user over here. Ansible SSH pass. We actually did a private key to start. Not the same attribute here, but so we did. What else is over here? You can secure FTP, you can secure copy, you can set all these up. Let's keep going a little bit further. We did Ansible _become, right? Remember when we logged in as ECT user and then we became root, and then from root we became the Git user. We did that already. Let's keep going. Over here you'll just see some types of host files, and we've done most of this already. So let's keep going. We're almost at the end. You're almost ready to take the leap. Drink more Kool-Aid. So non-SSH connection types. So you don't necessarily have to always connect over SSH. Again, if you are on, if you want to do something to the machine where Ansible is running, then you don't need to SSH because you're already on the machine, so you can use local. Then you can also use Docker. This connector deploys the playbook directly into Docker containers using a local Docker client. It's pretty sweet, huh? Here's more attributes. And then down here, this is giving you a snippet of what a playbook looks like. So right now we've been doing ad hoc commands. Because you now know the ad hoc commands, you now know how to execute and create playbooks. So playbooks have plays, and the plays have tasks. Right here, we're looking at a three. Here you have a name, and the name of it is arbitrary, right? Does not mean anything. It's not doing anything. This is just text. It's just being descriptive. We're going to create a Jenkins container. This is the Docker module, and here are the attributes you are given to the Docker module. Just like we have modules over here, and we gave attributes to the modules. Do the same thing in a playbook. Module, attributes to the module. Here's the name. Here's the module, attributes to the module. Now you see some of the same attributes, key value pairs that we used before. Again, once you go through the pain of understanding the basics of how to get started, how to do SSH, how to make sure your private key, public key match up, how to execute some of the commands in ad hoc, it makes it almost trivial to understand how to configure the playbooks. Now you can go through and click on some more links. Hey, I hope this was fun for you. I hope it helped you. Again, this is John Ruffin. Take care.